Yes, we are live. Welcome. So let me ask you this, Facebook viewers, particularly women, have you ever been concerned or worried that if you worked out with weights, you would bulk up? I know that's crossed my mind. And our guest today, Kel Thomas, is going to squash that myth and tell you the science behind that, in addition to some other topics on let's see. Well, I'm going to let him divulge those because I don't know how much time we'll have. But stay tuned. If you know someone who needs to know this information, share it with them. If we haven't met, I'm Kat Trelinos with Tada by Kat, Next Level Staging and Design, where we create magical transformations for all interiors, whether to sell or to dwell. And without further ado, Kel, please introduce yourself. You are just at the top here. You are a certified personal trainer with Global Fitness, and you're also a strength and conditioning coach. And I know that from personal experience because Kel has recently become a coach, personal home trainer for me, and I'm loving the workouts. So Kel, what did I miss? Introduce yourself. Tell us how you got into this field. And I know you're also going to college. You're a very ambitious young man, and you're marrying the concept of physical therapy with strength training, etc. But what was there something that spawned or kind of was your aha to like, oh, this is my passion. I want to get into this field. Tell us a little bit about your history.
Yeah, so coming out of high school, I was pretty good as far as playing football and running track and things like that. But there was, I did not have the disciplines of eating right at the time, or having that proper amount of sleep and things like that. And so me transitioning my senior year, I had we were just getting out of track and going into basketball. And for some reason, I was constantly having these problems where I would wake up in the morning and basically my eyes would be bloodshot red, and I would fall to the ground. And
Wow.
it would take a while for me to necessarily get up and get active and get moving. And it would take to about, second period to where I was able to get going and get moving to school. So it became a serious note, and me and my mom, we went to the clinic to basically get things, analyzed, documented, diagnosed, and they wanted an ultrasound for my heart for some reason. And they asked if I was active, if I was a athlete, and I let them know yes, I was always active. But when it came down to food, I was eating horribly. And so that actually became one of the leading causes of me not getting the proper oxygen and circulation whenever I would wake up in the morning. And it would happen on, once or twice a month from me actually doing sports since I was in middle school. So there
So
they
you were doing a lot of sports. You were conditioning your body, but you were basically putting like junk in the fuel tank.
exactly. So I was having, I was having basically circulation issues.
Mm,
Ever resting and then getting up and
right.
active. But having that heart murmur, which was found out when I had got a ultrasound. Yeah, an ultrasound. Um, with it, they asked me to change my diet. I had to sit out for about 2 weeks to actually go back and get checked in. And
So,
it was,
so I don't want to cut you off, but we want to cover some great topics here. So can you fast forward and summarize? So you had health issues.
yeah,
They were caught early, and then at a certain age, you decided, you know what? I have a passion for this. I want to help others so that they can lead their best and have their best, nutrition and body. Is that, kind of that? So your struggles, which many times it is how we get off into something where we want to help others is we have a challenge and then we've mastered it and we want to help others. And it sounds like that's what you've done.
Pretty much, yes. It's just tough when you have to eat right for you to perform a certain way. And with that, everyone, it goes in with everyone as far as you having to get up and be active throughout the day. That's the number one thing. And you can't do that without having the right fuel. And so that's
Absolutely. I tell my 10-year-old granddaughter that, eat everything with colors. If it comes from the ground, it's from God. It's the best number one. And I give her that analogy. Think about the car would put stop, like
mhm,
your body did as a young man. If you put leaves in it or sugar in it or whatever, it's just not going to be optimal.
yeah.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's jump right into. Thanks for sharing that, Kel, and I'm sure the culmination of that is that you are living a healthy life now. You have overcome what could have been just declined and gotten worse, and you're a young man. Had you kept on that road.
And it runs in my family. Generally, some of my males actually have the males in my generation have bad hearts. So it's a very important thing to make sure that you have, blood circulation, eating the right things, and staying active in that manner. And that's why I chose to take this path.
Absolutely. But you know what? The message I want to convey to our viewers also is that you don't have to be a product of your genetics. Every one of my dad and all his brothers all died of heart attacks. It's very women's, unfortunately, biology is not studied nearly enough through the years. But it can be genetic, but you can change genetics by lifestyle. You can prevent that. You don't have to be a product of your genetics, no matter what the condition it is. You can improve it, through what you eat, how you exercise, what you think of. So let's jump right into our main topic, and I want to touch on others also because I think it's really important. But so ladies particularly, I don't think men probably, you might agree, ever worry about bulking up too much. In fact, that would be a whole nother episode. The guys that, super bulk up but never do any yoga or stretching. You and I were talking about this the other day after our session, where, many of them, they just, they have the old school and they just want to bulk up, and their mobility is limited if they don't balance that with stretching, yoga, even ballet. Your football players are doing ballet. But for women primarily, I know you mentioned that a lot of women have a concern about, well, if I work out with weights, strength training, I'm going to bulk up and look like a man that I don't want to, or look, just too bulky. So how would you address that, Kel? Give us the science behind that. Is it true? Is it not true? Are there things we can do to prevent it?
So with strength training, it's definitely something that needs to be incorporated into your regimen. Whether it's the flexibility of what yoga does for you or what Pilates does for you as far as for having that strong core. Strength training definitely is something that a woman needs. Think about how many calories you're able to eat, right? If you were able to increase that and still remain, tight, still remain in shape, and still be able to, look great in the dress, that would be a plus, correct?
Absolutely.
So with adding muscle, you actually are able to burn calories on days whether you do work out or not. It
So let's talk about that, because I think, I learned this a long time ago, which was fascinating to me, that a pound, and this is where we can talk about later how the scale can be your foe or your friend, but don't always believe it. A pound of muscle um, and a pound of fat are not equal,
absolutely not.
right? And what does that mean? Well, it means that you can have a pound of fat and look flabby and out of shape, and you can have a pound of muscle and you look tight and trim and healthy. And that's really ties into the whole scale thing, right? That we really shouldn't let the scale, because you might be working out, trimming up, gaining lean muscle mass, getting rid of flabby cellulite and fat, but weigh more or weigh the same. And I think that's what you're saying. And
Yeah.
so why worry about what the scale says? Worry about what you look like,
Mm-hmm.
feel like.
Because if you looked at what a pound of fat looks like, it's larger in volume as far as like size, right?
Yes.
And then when you look at a pound of muscle, it's more condensed. And you want to have that around the body, more condensed muscle. I'm not saying to where it's you want your body fat to a single digit number. By all means, as far as for women, absolutely not. But
So let's talk about that briefly. What's for people who are into the numbers? What is and I'm sure it's probably individualized, but what is a healthy percentage of body fat if people are looking at that?
about 25 to 22 to 25.
22 to 25%. Okay. Okay.
And so with men, generally they can actually carry a lot less because of just how her tissue is made up, as far as how much tissue is needed for a woman versus how much tissue is needed for a man.
So let's talk about that difference between men and women. And I think that's where the misnomer is, that, women might see folks, either on YouTube or at the gym or whatever, men that are, they're working out and they're bulking up.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that women will not bulk up? Is there something in the genealogy or the genetics that will make men bulk up to go be the hunters, and women will just, strengthen their muscles and look better, but not really bulk up? What's the science behind that?
I think it's out of just how your day-to-day goes. Typically with men, for what they need to do is they add a lot of load to the resistance on their body. So having testosterone allows them to actually grow in that sense. And plus having a higher VO2 max as far as just bigger lungs, chest capacity, it makes it easier for the man to handle heavier lifting and things of that manner versus women. But with women, they carry a different dynamic that doesn't involve necessarily doing those things.
So let's talk about testosterone. So this is kind of a topic that's come up recently for me, because I just had a testing for my hormones, et cetera, and was researching some things on bioidentical hormones and so forth. And then I'm reading, because I always come from the holistic side first, that by exercising, you increase your testosterone. So for someone of my particular age that starts to lose their testosterone,
yes,
I think that's typical, right? When you are blessed to live long enough. But according to what I'm researching, just by exercising alone, you can increase your testosterone.
Yeah, very true. Even with as you age, you always hear like your muscle is turning into fat, right? As you age. Well, that's just due to the inactivity of physical activity, pretty much. You have to be active. You have to continue doing those, things to push yourself daily. Now, not saying that you want to, scale yourself from where your prime was, whether it's in the past. You have to scale yourself of where you are now.
Where you are now.
Move forward tomorrow and literally do the same thing every single day.
And I know, because I've been training with CC and now with you for, I think, 6 months. And I'm, like, I see slow, but gradual, but increased difference. Improvement, not drastic like when I was in my 20s or 30s, even 40s, but I see the improvement. And, you touched on something, you have to be active, because if you're not, when you're over 40, I believe it starts at 40, you lose muscle mass at a rate of, and maybe you have that number, is it 0.6%? It's or 1%. It's pretty up there. And if you figure every year you decline muscle mass, so that's where I think that thinking is of, well, I'm just going to get flabby. Well, number one, if you stop working out and just give in and go, yeah, I'm older, I'm just going to give up, I don't need to work out. Well, yeah, that's not going to get you anywhere. But I think all the more as we get over 40, we need to exercise to combat or counteract, I should say, that natural decline in muscle mass
Absolutely.
every year if we don't do it.
Yes. My best friend, he's 47 and he still kicks my butt in the gym. He's literally taught me a lot about strength and conditioning. And I just see so much with him and how his pace is. He does not, like, from when I met him, which was 7 or 8 years ago, he still has not slowed down at all. And I do heavily believe, in his philosophy. As you get up, you handle your business. He's been through some accidents as well. He's actually recovering from one where he tore his patella tendon. Now, some would say that this is not ethical or you should do this, but literally we were in the gym. He was doing curls, he was doing presses the second day afterwards, after we got back from the clinic. And
Wow.
he went back to work 3 months after. And so what he's read and researched was that particular injury actually takes a full year, if not more, process.
Wow.
The doctors let him know, like told him that he had so much connective tissue that was so intact because of the type of training, the strengthening exercises, even the lateral movements and the mobility that we go through in training day in and day out still allowed him to, one, be able to limp slowly on his leg within weeks. And so like he's
That's
definitely
awesome. That's awesome. And I've told you, Kel, I've told Cece this too. I've had back surgery in the 80s. I've had shoulder surgery 15 years ago. And the most recent, a few years ago, had knee surgery. That didn't go, I was still having pain after a year and a half and had stem cell uh, um, treatment, which was amazing. But I was still having kind of, I was getting ready to go, maybe I need to go back and have one more treatment because it was still kind of hurting. And they said I might need two. And once I started working out and strengthening what you said, the connective tissue, now I'm pretty much pain free and I hardly limp at all. And, I can do squats, all that, and I'm not in pain, so it's the body is just an amazing machine. If we take care of it and we move it. So let me go into this a topic. Looking at time here, I think we still have about 10. Even if we go over a little, that's fine. But I liked your topic that you sent over, and I'm curious to see how you answered. And that is, what does the best body, or what does building the best body look like? So, in Kel's opinion, what share with us how you would answer that.
Well, I break it down into 5 groups. You have to have aerobic fitness, which is, you can have it as boxing, as far as, sparring. You can have it as biking. You can have it as running. Some people choose different things. Aerobic fitness is number 1.
Okay. Let me stop right there just to get a little clarification. So tell folks, how long? Do you have to do it for an hour, 10 minutes, 20? What's to get the best benefit? What's the least amount of money we can do on aerobics?
Literally, if you started with just 5 minutes of that, and it's just a big breakdown. You do aerobic fitness for 5. You want to do strength training, at least incorporate a traditional weight training movement, depending on if you're wanting to do upper body or if you're wanting to do lower body, right?
Mm-hmm.
You transition to a core exercise. Core exercise means that you want to go into, whether it's crunches, you want to do an ab workout. From there, you want to go into balance training. Balance training, if you've taken care of burning a lot of the fuel in your strength training, when you exert a lot of energy, balance training is going to be pretty tough, but you want to put it in that category because the harder that actual thing is, at just standing on one leg and reaching down, those things there help you with your stabilizers as well as still being a core centric movement to get you sweating, to get your heart rate going. And it's still a pretty tough, workout by itself.
I love that.
Then you transition to your flexibility and your stretching at the end. Your muscles are warm. You're basically working yourself to lower your heart rate. You can do that by stretching and working your, flexibility motions and movements. And that could be, bending over to, into a lateral squat, just lateral lunges, lateral steps, even sitting on the ground, reaching for your toes, all of those basic stretching movements at the end of your workout while those muscles are warm, your heart rate is going, and you're trying to, breathe and, get on with your day. That
Love
having
it.
it that way is
I love it. So 5 minutes aerobics, weight, some sort of weight training, do your core, which is your abs, because you've got to have that, in fact, for folks first starting out with weights, I personally, have been told it's good to get that. My trainers in the past have always gotten my core strengthened first so that I can handle the weights, so I can handle the balancing and the stretching, et cetera. Balancing is so important, and I think we forget about that in our, our exercise regime sometimes. But again, for those of us, and I just read that we have a higher population of 65 and over than we ever have in the entire, measure of history. And if you just go 40 and over, that's one of the highest incidents of injury and or death is falling and hitting your head. And that comes back to not having good balance. So I love that you integrate that, the balance. We sometimes, I think, forget about how important that is. We're not working in the fields anymore. We're not, with buggies. We're not doing a lot of physical labor anymore.
And for the beginners as well, I would definitely recommend only using 10% of your body weight, right? If you use 10% of your body weight, whatever that number is, to start your strength training and going into those traditional weight training movements, and then adding a good complex of repetitions and sets and keeping your repetitions short, because remember, that's just one area that we're focusing on. So we got to keep things going, keep yourself moving, and you can get that all done within 45 minutes to 50. And it's simple as that. If you worked on doing that 3 times a week or just 2 times a week, if need be, always incorporate cardio in between those days that you don't do those exercises, and you will be perfectly fine.
Let's go back to cardio, because I always ask you guys too, like, aren't I doing cardio? Because the way you and Cece push me, it's like, I'm huffing and puffing and going from one thing to the next. I'm sure give myself a little more rest in between when I'm working out on my own. I know I do, which is why I have you guys to push me. But, what is you said 5 minutes. I mean, you could do 5 minutes of aerobics and it would be effective.
And yes, absolutely. So if we literally have 5 minutes, and I was able to get creative with that, as far as if I wanted us to do, jumping jacks for 5 minutes, you get pretty tired, right? Even if I was to shorten it to a minute, if I said we were out on the field and I said, we're going to do a full sprint after doing a little movements just to keep the muscles warm, we work full sprint, you're exerting a certain amount of energy. And it all depends on how your body is able to handle that within the time that you have. So the more energy we're able to exert, it honestly depends on what type of cardio you're able to actually do.
So are you a big, and what that sounds to me like you're describing is they call high intensity interval training, HIIT or whatever.
Yep.
Is that more effective or just as effective or not as effective as just doing, a 15-minute walk or and let's define, I want to back up a little. Let's define aerobics. I'm going to let you have to raise your heart rate at a certain percentage above resting heart rate. Is that correct?
Yes.
What percentage is that?
That percentage is, as far as for elevating your resting heart rate to the heart rate that you need, is going to be it should be 70%. Yes. Well, yeah. You want to raise it 70% and keep it between a range of 40 and 70.
keep it between 40 and 70 beats per minute?
Oh, ma'am. Oh, 70% above.
Oh, percent. Okay.
It,
Okay.
it just helps with the scale, because if we tested, you would be able to scale it, personalized versus me able to scale my own per se. So
Yes.
I always say if you started at your resting heart rate, you want to increase it between 40 to 70% and keep that within that duration of time.
With that duration. Years ago, this was back in Southern California, but I think it was the only time that we actually, with a trainer at the gym, we did that resting, and then took it up to the aerobic. Because if you get past a certain amount, you can be in what's called anaerobic state, correct? And that's where you're not burning fat, right?
Yes.
Amongst other things, it's not healthy for you to go past that 70%. So I think one of the issues that I had is I would go past it, and I would go past it. And then statistically, it took me longer to get, because don't you also rate or look at how long does it take you to get back?
Mm-hmm.
You're resting. And if it takes you too long, that's not good either, right?
Yes. And that lets us know how your circulatory system is doing, how your blood, you're able to bring your heart rate from a high level down. That's actually a skill that I don't think the fitness industry introduces as much to clients, but it's a little hard to explain.
To explain and manage. So are there, in that
Mhm.
note with technology, because I'm talking like 25 years ago, I experienced that, and I never really have looked at it since. And that is, how they have all these fitness. My daughter has one that calculates everything.
Yeah.
Is there some kind of a watch that, or something, a mechanics that does that, or that can do that?
So the devices that we have today, they're the most accurate as that's available to us. So definitely setting that as a scale gives us a ballpark idea of where we need to be and where we want to be. But there's more expensive things that you can take, as far as they kind of stitch you up with those little coils that have the electrodes.
Pads, yeah.
Can get really dialed into it whenever you talk about counting the calories and knowing where your heart is up and how it's down. That's more accurate. But as far as the devices that we have, I think that scaling it from whether it's a Fitbit or having a smartwatch, it will definitely get you going and keep you on track of what you're doing too. Because I can just go into my phone and I can see a row of everything that I've done within a month as far as exercising, and
Right.
that's entertaining, and it keeps you, not really thinking about, oh, I got to work out all the time. It's you kind of chase, oh, I burned this many calories. Oh, I got in this, I stood for this long, and
Yeah.
that make it easy.
So it kind of pushes you to that. Yeah. To me, I just thought, well, I don't. I definitely. I don't know if I want to know everything, how I sleep. My daughter tells her how much she turned and didn't sleep, and all this kind of stuff. But I was interested in finding out. Well, I don't want to be in an anaerobic state, so and I wasn't aware that that's actually testing your circulatory system, which is so important. So that could be something to think about. So. Two questions I have for you before we wrap up. We're at 10:30 at the point. Great information, Kel. Can you confirm? I have heard that exercise is accumulative. And I know for me, this was a great aha, because, many of us don't have time to carve out 30 or 45 minutes in the morning or the afternoon or whenever. And we'll talk about that in the second question. When's the best time to exercise? So when I found out exercise was accumulative, I was like, oh, this is great. Because many years of my life, I worked in a model home, as a not project, but community manager. And much of that was sitting at a desk until guests came in, busy on the weekend, but slow during the week. And so I started, well, I've got 5 minutes. There's no guests. Let me go up and down the stairs, 6 times. Let me drop, off the kitchen island, 20 push-ups. But 5 to 10 minutes. So is that true, or is that a misnomer that exercise is accumulative?
No, it's very much so. It's very much so accumulative, because if you spend your time being active throughout the day versus looking at the end and you didn't raise your heart rate at all, there's a problem there. There's a problem. Is because you're not choosing to exert any energy whatsoever is worse than at least raising it to a small scale over a period
Several times a day. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good. So, guys, if you don't have an hour to carve out, minutes, park. Don't look for that, what my daughter calls princess parking. Park, 20, 30 cars down where your car won't get banged, and walk in. That's exercise. That's you whoopee. You got some exercise in. You didn't even have to carve out any time or change your clothes or what have you. So I love that. So this is one that, I know the answer for me, but I'd love to hear your answer. And that is, what is the best time or the better or optimal time in the day to work out? Oh,
that one there. I can only say that the best time to work out is when you have time.
Yep. There you go.
And
that's absolutely true. I know there's some physiologists who state that, you get more maximum output, input, whatever results if you do it early in the morning, but not everybody's an early morning person. For me, if I don't get my workout in the morning, 8 times out of 10, I'm not going to get it out unless I just say, okay, I've got a lot of stuff going on after this at 3 or 4, or while, the hubs is making dinner, I'm going to work out. It's just not going to get done. But that's absolutely good to hear. Yeah, that whatever, because not everybody vibes the same and is ready to work out, some in the morning, some in the evening, and it has to work in your schedule too. Yeah, absolutely.
Body is really completely different, and you may naturally feel more energy and feel stronger to do strength training in the mornings than doing cardio in the I've and my thing is, you got to incorporate people's lives into that whole scale, and that way that it's best fitting and the most comfortable for that person. They may feel better training in the morning or vice versa, but if their work schedule doesn't work that way, we can't force. You can't.
Exactly. And I think it was my brother who told me this about 25 years ago. We were talking about exercising, and he's like, I know the exercise that works. I can tell you the exercise plan that works. It's like the one you do. Right? Do it. So just do it. Get up there and do it. Thank you so much, Kelly. You have shared so much good information. About bulking up. It's not going to happen with women. The myth between muscle and fat, and, not to be a slave to the scale. Some really great tips, your 5 really scopes of being healthy, and that's aerobics, weight training, core, balance training, flexibility, and stretching. And it doesn't have to be 30 minutes of each. Just incorporate all of those. And thank you for confirming that exercise is accumulative. I know I love that, and many people who can only take snippets from themselves will absolutely love that. And the best time to work out is when you work out. So, Kel, thank you so much again. And if to get some more information from you or see how they could sign up, Kel actually, is a trainer at 24. Is it Fitness 24? Am I saying it right?
Fit Club 24.
Fit Club 24. Cece is the owner of that, and she comes to my house. It is Kel now, which I love, but you can get a membership at their gym if you are in the Kirkendall, Tomball, Creekside, Woodlands area. She's got a fabulous gym out there. But this is going to be posted on Facebook within 24 to 48 hours, and we're super excited. We think the Hubs has connected us and streaming this on LinkedIn, as well as my personal Facebook page and Tada by Cat. So this would be our first time, and cross our fingers that it came through. But this will be published on our YouTube channel. This has been our self-love theme for February. I hope that you've been taking care of you and doing something to love yourself, no matter how small or how big, because you count and you're important, and only you can take care of you the best way that you can. How could folks reach you if they'd like to reach you before this goes on YouTube, Kel?
Thomas on Facebook or ambitious_K28 on Instagram. But
again, it's ambitious_K28
K28
on Instagram. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kel. And I will see you next week. And stay on for a second. I'm going to close out here. Everybody have a great weekend. Stay hopeful, stay positive, and stay connected. And thank you so much for connecting with me and Kel today. Go out this weekend and do something to take care of yourself. Exercise some self-love in any way you can, mind, body, or spirit. And we've heard exercise is phenomenal. In fact, to quote Kel as we leave here, what was your quote? Kel believes that training the body will enhance the mind and spirit, and I agree 100%. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Kel.